Again on John Marshall. This should be the wooden stake in the heart of the despotic, evil, fucking blood-sucking tyrant, otherwise known as John Marshall. Chief Justice John Marshall. The man who saved America, as they say. So what I plan to do here is to put an indictment against John Marshall to show that, one, he was an agent of the king. He was not, that all Federalists all Federalists, all people that hold to any esteem for any of the Federalists are, whether they can accept it or not, just like a fucking Catholic person is part of an organization that fucks little boys regardless of whatever they want to believe Catholicism is. In the top of the fucking chain, it just provides non-stop fucking little boys to men that want to fuck little boys through various fucking agencies of trauma and war in which they make it boys accessible to them. And the denigration of women based on race too. So in the same context too, street gangs in the Mexican Mafia. At the upper echelons of the Mexican Mafia, there is no conflict between members on a turf rate basis. But on the lower levels of the Mexican Mafia, an example is in the 1980s and the 1990s, all of that violence that was going on, the shooting for the most part between Mexican or Hispanic Mexican gangs in like the Los Angeles area, just for an example, where there was, I think it was 300 plus people dying and stuff like that. Not all of them were Hispanic, but it was a high time of violence. At that time, all of the violence, it's hard to wrap your head around, between Mexican gangs was actually an internal systematic method of expansionism that the Mexican Mafia was using in order to traumatize communities and increase the pool from which they could draw susceptible recruitees. So this is the pattern. I'm about to show you how this is. This is all reflected with John Marshall. And I want to start because I'm actually I made a huge discovery with the Bible. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba. So, again, this is going to go with Abraham, or Abram, whatever you want to call him. Right now he's Abram. Ab is to take away. I'm sorry, Ab is to come between. Ram is Mars, backwards. Ram, Mars. Mars is Aries. You getting any sense? No, it's not working out. So let's just get into this real quick. Now, this is Genesis chapter sweet 16, baby. But let's bear in mind the girl here is just entering puberty, so she's more likely 11 or 12, possibly 9 or 10. This story is the premise from where the founding fathers of America came up with the age of consent to be 10. That was not the age of consent in any European country. That was an exclusively Masonic, federalist, monarchist, resort type. Well, when you go over there, you could do better, this kind of stuff. When you go over there, you could do more than you could do over here. That's what it was. And it took till the 1880s for white women in the American political system to actually successfully get that altered from, because they had no political power, because even though they're mentioned in the Magna Carta, and everything else about America seems to be replicated exactly off of everything. London, the Federal Reserve. If you watch the National Treasure Part 2, there's a scene where they transition from the Capitol building and the White House to some building, some government building or something like that over in London, and they show you it's a perfect superimposement, because Washington D.C., which was founded by the founding father in a cube, same thing as a baseball diamond. There's something else I realized, is designed. A cube is a method of containment. So Washington, D.C., which was designed to honor George Washington, actually, remember too, here's an important thing to recognize, it was burned down in 1812, so it was rebuilt after England burned it down, and the way that the Americans rebuilt it, apparently after England burning it down, was in a direct replication to what was already in London. 1812, I wonder where John Marshall was in 1812. So let's get into the Bible and start getting into some study so we can murder John Brown. I'm sorry, John Marshall. John Brown, He's a real founding father of America. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, bare him no children, and she had a handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. Then Sarai said unto Abram, Behold, now the Lord had restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go in unto my maid. It may be that I may obtain children by her. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarai. And Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to Abram to be his wife. Look, I did not do a pre-reading. 10 years. Biblically based. The founding fathers. So when you have these women with the Tea Party, or black women, I saw there's a black lady that I work with, she wore a shirt yesterday that said, it had an American flag, it said, our flag, love it or leave. And I was like, damn, lady, this is amazing shit. But the age of 10 is fucking right here. It's biblically based. So when these type of women say, we should respect this country and bring it back to its roots, that means prior to 1880. And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived, and when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarai said unto Abram, My wrong be upon thee. I have given my maid into thy bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. The Lord judge between me and thee. But Abram said unto Sarai, Behold, thy maid is in thy hand. Do to her as it pleaseth thee. And when Sarai dealt hardly with her, she fled from her face. So she tortured the little girl for being raped. You have to understand, the man just raped her. There was no consent here. Sarah's consent is not consent. This is John Marshall. This is the whole Bible. This is what I mean. Even though this starts over here, you want you to think this is the beginning and the end. This is the beginning of the Bible. Everything from this point on is only one thing: to justify the rape of Hagar. That's it. Because the rest of this is trying to do, lucky enough I have this right here, to reiterate this. This motherfucker is a source code of motherfucking all the pandemic fucking rape and sexual assault and sexual pervasiveness that is right along lines with slavery, prostitution, same fucking thing. In Oakland, there's a street. Right now in 2015, there's a street in Oakland where everybody in the motherfucking city knows that young black girls that are kidnapped and stolen from their families for months, sometimes years, teenage girls are walking this known street, and the police, the white police, the FOP, the Fraternal Order of Police members in Oakland, when they patrol this street, if the girls escape, this is a real, you can look this up, when the girls escape and finally get away or get rescued from their family members, the police do not investigate to find out who the male adult was that kidnapped them and brainwashed them and put them on the street. They arrest the girls and they charge them for prostitution. A 16-year-old girl that was kidnapped for over a year. When she finally got home because her aunts are on the street and swept her up and got her home, they called the police. The police took a statement and then they arrested the girl because they don't want you to know that all those little poor black girls are fucking FOP members, judges, lawyers, PG&E fucking employees, military contractors, and whatever else the fuck you got up there. I'll tell you what, homosexuals are definitely not fucking them. So, and the angel of the Lord found her, Hagar, by a fountain of water in the wilderness, by the fountain in the way of Shur, and he said, Hagar, Sarah's maid, whence camest thou, and whither wilt thou go? And she said, I flee from the face of my mistress. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Return to thy mistress, and submit thyself under her hands. Justification for slavery, just as John Marshall. Constitutional law. I'm going to tell you how this works. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, I will multiply thy seed exceedingly, that it shall not be numbered for multitude. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Behold, thou art with child, and shalt bear a son, and shalt call his name Ishmael, because the Lord hath heard thy affliction. And he shall be a wild, he will be a wild man. His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him. And he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren. And she called the name of the Lord that spake to her, Thou God seest me. For she said, Have I also here looked after him that seeth me? Wherefore the well was called Berlahai Roy. Behold, it was between Kadesh and Bered. And Hagar bare Abram a son, which Abram called his son's name, which Hagar bare Ishmael. And Abram was 66 years old when Hagar bare Ishmael. So, okay, that's good enough. All right. So, again, this is all justification of rape. The entire fucking thing. The concept is, the book of Revelations is this. I'm going to show you this shit here too. So, this is my point. You have to understand what rape is. Rape is when a man has sex with somebody that doesn't want to, or when a person overpowers and subdues someone to do something that they otherwise don't want them to do. In modern day terms, it's typically associated with purely sex, primarily because men control the world. They don't want you to think of rape as coming up to you and touching you on the shoulder and saying, hey, you know, I think you look very beautiful. Because they want you to think in the boyish innocence that how could you be mad at them when they're trying to be nice to you? It doesn't matter if you could see through their eyes and hear their thoughts. What the fuck is that? If you can't hear them say it, you don't have the right to act to it. Now this is a quote from John Marshall out of John Marshall's writings. Not well discussing, this is from Worcester and Georgia from John Marshall. Quote, not well, talking about Indians signing treaties with this term Anglo-American that they're making up. But there's no such thing as American. They're making it up. Just like Anglo, the way Anglo was established is the new thing that they're trying to do with American. Not well acquainted with the exact meaning of words, nor supposing it to be material, whether they were called the subjects or the children of their father in Europe. He was using this to explain how the Indians now. This is called ordered liberty. This is also from John Marshall's writings, also from Worcester, Georgia. But power, war, conquest give rights which after possession are conceded by the world and which never can be converted by those on whom they descend. We proceed then to the actual state of things, having glanced at their origin, because holding it in our recollection might shed some light on existing pretensions. The great maritime powers of Europe discovered and visited different parts of this continent at nearly the same time. The object was too immense for any one of them to grasp the whole.